Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Friday here on The Story, and tonight, another delay in the I-5 bridge replacement project. Vancouver's mayor was in Washington, D.C. this week and says the federal goalposts keep changing. Plus, good news for a breast cancer vaccine trial in the state of Washington that's getting a financial boost in part from a former correspondent from NBC Nightly News. But first, the grim reality of political violence in America is on full display this week. What's behind the sharp rise in attacks and where we go from here? It's our big story tonight. Okay, by now you've heard about the arrest of the man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was arrested last night in southern Utah after he was turned in by his father and a youth pastor. Officials say his family said he had become more political in recent years and spoke about Charlie Kirk in particular. At this time, officials believe Robinson acted alone. Now, it's an attack that has a lot of people on edge, and it's no wonder we've seen a drastic rise in politically motivated violence in the past few years. Reuters last year catalogued at least 300 cases of political violence across the U.S. since the January 6th attack on the Capitol. They say it's the biggest surge in political violence since the 1970s. In the last 4 years alone, we've seen riots at both the U.S. Capitol and the state capitol here in Oregon, along with protests and street fights in Portland. And across the country, attacks on lawmakers and their families, and the attempted assassination of President Trump. Well, today, Oregon State Police say bomb threats were sent to 3 Democratic state senators. The threats were false, and they're all fine. Senate Majority Leader Case Jama said today he got one of the threats, writing, "Violence and threats of violence should never be part of political disagreements. We can oppose each other's ideas without resorting to violence and intimidation." A string of bomb threats also forced several historically black colleges and the DNC headquarters to be locked down this week. And lawmakers across the country are concerned about doing one of the biggest parts of their jobs, interacting with the public.
I like being accessible, but being accessible is starting to look like being vulnerable.
The numbers tell the story. It is much more dangerous than it used to be.
Now, to get some perspective on this, we reached out to a local sociology professor, Randall Blazak. He's an expert on extremism, hate groups, and political violence. He says he's worried about the violence escalating, especially locally.
I'm particularly concerned about retaliatory violence. This sometimes is the sort of part 2 of these events. There was immediately yesterday calls for violence against people on the left, again, even before we knew the motive of the shooter. And that puts Portland, again, in sort of the crosshairs. Portland is kind of known for its progressive activism, including down at the ICE building downtown. The president recently made comments about Portland, and I'm concerned that that may be a reality, that there may be this retaliatory violence that happens.
Blazak says there are plenty of people in America who are ready to address their disagreements with violence.
There are individuals who are disaffected, who feel that their political voice, wherever they are on the political spectrum, is not being heard, and typically male expressions of violence becomes the result. That I'm going to make a statement, and this is the way we do it in America, and we have a long history of this.
Well, if you've been online this week, you know just about everyone has something to say about the shooting, or something to say about what people are saying. And it's landing some people in trouble. A middle school teacher in Forest Grove, who was also a city councilor in Cornelius up until just a couple of hours ago, is now under investigation and on paid leave from his teaching job for a social media post he made about the shooting. John Colgan posted this to his personal Facebook page. It reads in part, "Hearing that Charlie Kirk got shot and died really brightened up my day. Nobody deserves it, but some are asking for it." He went on to call Kirk a ghoul who often defended guns after school shootings. We learned this afternoon that Colgan resigned as a Cornelius city councilor, saying that he's sorry for his comments and the harm they caused. The mayor said Colgan's comments don't reflect the values of the city of Cornelius. When we asked the Forest Grove School District about it yesterday, the district did not take disciplinary action, only saying the district does not condone violence nor the celebration of violence, and that Colgan made his post on his private account while off duty. But today, they put him on paid leave. The school district's Facebook page is filled with comments from people criticizing Colgan's post and the district's response, demanding that he be fired. Like this one from Tom Ward, who says he may have done it in private and while off duty, but it will still be the same person when he gets to school and is on duty. He is not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Blazek says social media is only fanning the flames of division and political violence.
There is a kind of media ecosphere and a political ecosphere that benefit from these arbitrary divisions. There is a lot of money to be made. Charlie Kirk is one of those people who benefited handsomely from dividing us, especially around issues like race and gender and sexual orientation, and really turning us into, almost like a Super Bowl of teams of Americans on one side or the other. And so that noise gets a lot of attention. It gets a lot of clicks, it gets a lot of likes, and generates revenue streams, and has been toxic to the body politic of America. It has really turned brother against brother, and that's the language that we used before the Civil War. The good news is, that is created by people, and the response to it can come from people. The antidote can come from the people who are being disaffected by it.
Blazak says one of the best things you can do right now is log off. That doesn't necessarily mean ignoring the issue, but try connecting with people and talking about it in person instead.
But it's really up to us to sort of find ways to bridge those gaps, to have those conversations about our shared values, to reach out to people who may have a political opinion or a voting record that's different than yours and say, okay, but let's talk about the things that unite us. Let's talk about how we care about equality, or we care about democracy, or we care about fairness, or we care about personal safety. I mean, those are things that unite Americans. When the research shows that when we talk about our values, when we talk about the things that we care, those conversations, then when they're political in nature about particular issue like abortion or Ukraine or whatever it is, those conversations go much more civilly. And in the old days, we did this at the bowling alley, we did it at the tavern, we did it at church, we did it in the places that we gathered. Sometimes we call these places third places, the coffee shop. We're now sitting at home scrolling, or we're just binging on our favorite TV show, and we're not engaging with our community members. And instead, we're just getting this toxic stew of stuff that's in our own echo chamber. And then we go back into the world and we're all angry at people. The more time we spend in community with people who are like us, and especially with people who are not like us, the more we're able to have those conversations and find that common ground.
Well, we've been in sort of a holding pattern when it comes to news about the I-5 bridge replacement project between Portland and Vancouver. But we got a bit of a surprise earlier this week, courtesy of Vancouver's mayor. The flimsy timeline for the IBR project, as it's called, could be getting pushed back. Let's explain. The word of the year so far with this project is delay. A new cost estimate was pushed to later this year, the start of tolling on the current bridge delayed to 2027, and so on. The one thing that has not been officially delayed is the start of construction, which is still planned for next year. But before that can happen, the project has to finish the environmental review process and receive what's called a record of decision, or ROD, basically final federal approval. At one time, that was expected to happen around now. But that also got delayed because the feds needed more time to sort through 10,000 comments from the project's public feedback period. So the new expectation was that the review would be finished by the end of this year, with the ROD, the green light to put shovels in the ground, coming early next year. But now, even that is coming into question.
I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, and it is not the IBR that is holding this project up right now. As everyone is aware, those 10,000 comments on the draft supplemental EIS are being handled in Vancouver, but the project is being handled here in Washington, D.C. with delays. So each time the project meets a deadline, the goalposts change a bit.
The mayor's comments came at the tail end of a C-Tran board meeting Tuesday night. She sounded a little bit frustrated, but she didn't stop there.
The record of decision was due yesterday. The federal government has postponed it. We won't have it for Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas. We thought maybe January. And now a new department at the federal government would like to review the over 7,000 pages of documents, looking for specific words. They have added on to that. They have moved the goalposts again, and now it may not be until April.
So instead of being done in the coming weeks as initially expected, that federal decision may not come until next spring. Now, this is all happening against the backdrop of the Trump administration, which has gone out of its way to purge and defund anything it deems to be, quote, woke or DEI, including some transportation projects like the Rose Quarter project in Portland. IBR seems to have been avoided being tripped up by those policy changes so far. All of its federal grants are still intact, but given the circumstances, the mayor's word choice about a new federal department reviewing the documents, looking for specific words, well, that caught our attention. Is it potentially DOJ looking for DEI elements of the bridge plan? We don't know if that's what's going on here. For all we know, it could be something much more benign, like a different DOT office raising engineering concerns. We reached out to the mayor to ask for clarification, but we haven't heard back. We also asked the bridge team about the mayor's comments, and so far, no response there either. But at the very least, it seems safe to say the federal review process is not going smoothly or quickly.
So the IBR do not have a final design. Therefore, the IBR does not have a final project for any high-capacity transit. And until the federal government gives them the okay, the record of decision, we won't know what that is, and neither will IBR. So we are here talking to the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway, the Federal Transit, all of them, so that we can push this project forward and get some answers.
Coming up next on The Story, 3 months after the Rowena fire devastated the small town in the Gorge, we're heading back for an update on cleanup and recovery efforts. Why some residents are frustrated by the sluggish pace and what leaders there want when it comes to modernizing disaster recovery. That's next when The Story returns. Well, it's been 3 months since the Rowena fire tore through the small town in Wasco County, northwest of the Dalles, and right along the Columbia River. The fire torched more than 50 homes, but the cleanup and recovery process for residents there has been sluggish and frustrating for some. Alma McCarty brings us the update.
Early September in the Columbia River Gorge. On this day, calm and mostly clear. Nothing compared to 3 months prior, when winds carried smoke and embers from the Rowena fire through the sky. The flames charred more than 3,500 acres, decimated more than 50 homes in Wasco County.
We got nothing to lose. We've already lost it all.
That devastation is still striking on side roads and in Rowena neighborhoods.
I am one of those who lost everything unless you have experienced the level of loss that we've had. You cannot comprehend how devastating it is.
Patrick Hollander's place reduced to rubble. We met him just 2 days after the fire started during a public meeting at the Dalles High School.
I went in yesterday morning before they put up the roadblock, and you can't imagine this is what I own right here.
3 months later,
Doesn't look like it, but this was the nicest, prettiest green grass you ever saw.
Patrick returns every couple of days to tend to the only sign of life.
They are definitely barely hanging on.
2 pepper plants somehow untouched amid the fragmented chaos still covering the property. He had hoped to be back here for good.
All I want is my view back. And actually, my view's there. It never went anywhere.
But he fears that won't happen anytime soon, what with the delays and the red tape that he believes have held up the cleanup.
And then when we ask who's in charge, nobody has an answer.
In late August, Governor Tina Kotek directed the Department of Environmental Quality and Emergency Management to expeditiously begin Phase 2 of debris cleanup at no cost to fire victims.
By the way, there's Phase 1. Those white X's.
However, Phase 2, the removal of ash, debris, and burned out structures remains in limbo, with no timeline as to when it will begin. Patrick isn't sure if waiting will be worth it.
It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes. Do you think for 1 minute I'm going to take that chance? Not even.
I know there's just no way to move fast enough to help everyone.
While that can be frustrating, Andrew Danny's co-chair of the Rowena Fire Long-Term Recovery Group explains the pace at which they're moving is deliberate.
We've been taking a more cautious approach and trying to funnel folks into case management. The concern is because there are so many unknowns in terms of insurance and cleanup and things like that, if we move too quickly, we can exhaust all of our resources before they have a chance to do the most good for folks.
Over the past 3 months, nonprofits like the Mid-Columbia Community Action Council have focused on the short-term emergency solutions, working to rehouse more than 24 families and providing furniture and rental assistance.
It's something that it changes the course of your life, and it's the community members that step up and the community behind you that rises you up above the ashes.
And when it comes to the hundreds of thousands in donations, United Way of the Columbia Gorge underscores that those funds are dedicated solely to survivors, even if they haven't been dispersed yet.
Every dollar that's donated will go to recovery efforts. None of it will be eaten by bureaucracy.
To those still struggling with accessing help,
nobody wants to be that government entity that's not being helpful.
Wasco County leaders like Commissioner Jeff Justison urge them to reach out directly.
Some people are ready to clean up and rebuild right now, and some people are just unsure what they're going to do.
As for Patrick,
another month for foundation and septic, and 2 more months for curing and incidentals.
He's counting down the days till he can return.
Theoretically, we could be in here in 6 months. Theoretically.
Well, because much of the fire impacted a scenic area, Wasco County officials are calling on the Gorge Commission to modernize disaster recovery, asking for an expedited review of replacement structures. In other words, making it easier to rebuild homes. For more information on how to navigate the different resources offered to families, We have details on KGW.com. All right, let's bring in Celine Stevens now for a look at fire conditions in Oregon and what we can expect weather-wise over the weekend. Celine.
Blair, well, things are looking pretty good right now in terms of fire conditions. We're really not seeing anything that's raising any alerts or red flag warnings or anything like that. We have a great sunset right now in the Dalles, 75 degrees there. Their wind speeds blowing at 15 miles per hour. Those wind gusts getting up to 24 miles per hour. And so that's something we definitely saw over the summer with the higher wind gusts mixed with the low humidity and the high temperatures. That's definitely going to give you that threat of having fires if once it's sparked for it to spread. But clearly we're not dealing with that right now. Taking a look at our humidity levels across the map, 51% humidity in Portland, looks like 49 in Troutdale. Other places like the Dalles seeing 50% humidity, 42% in Pendleton. So again, humidity not a concern right now in those areas like the Dalles. However, check out Bend, 28% humidity. So some areas down south where we have been seeing some of those fires or were previously, definitely still seeing some of the lower humidity. But in regions like the Gorge, looks like everything is okay for right now and should continue. Taking a look at wind gusts as well, really not too big of a concern. 24-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the Dalles right now. As we get throughout our weekend, we're going to see those winds continuing to stay a little bit on the stronger side, but definitely not as strong as we've seen in the past. 19-mile-per-hour wind speeds in the Dalles by Saturday, 7 p.m. As we get into Sunday, we're going to see the same thing, 22-mile-per-hour wind speeds early Sunday morning, staying in the teens, it looks like, by Sunday afternoon. So definitely something to keep in mind, but again, no concerns of fire at the moment. Air quality looking nice. In places like Bend and Madras, though, they're seeing moderate air quality. In the Portland area, Salem as well, and along the coast, we're in the good zone. That's always good news. As we look at other areas, though, in terms of smoke, also light smoke, nothing really to worry about. Again, the main areas we're seeing that is down south where we are seeing those fires. In the Portland area, things are remaining nice and fine. Pretty, again, light smoke, nothing to worry about here. As we get into our weekend, we're going to have the rain moving in. The front moves in late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. We're going to have widespread showers throughout Sunday. As we get to Sunday evening, we're really going to see that start to clear. And as we get into Monday, pretty much all that cloud coverage will clear up and temperatures will remain nice and warm. Taking a quick look at our 7-day, again, Saturday, 79 degrees. Clouds roll in late Saturday night. Sunday, widespread light showers, 70-degree temperatures. Likely seeing 1/10 to 3/10 of an inch of rain as we get into the rest of our week. 80s by Tuesday. After that, temperatures in the 70s.
Okay, love it. Love all the sunshine. Thanks so much, Celine. We're back right after this. In the United States, more than 280,000 people are diagnosed with breast cancer every year. But a $500,000 grant is giving a major boost to a breast cancer vaccine trial at the University of Washington. Natalie Swaby reports on what researchers are calling a game changer.
This grant means more patients will get access to a clinical trial that's testing the vaccine's potential to prevent breast cancer recurrence and to transform patient outcomes.
At University of Washington's Cancer Vaccine Institute, this freezer vat works like a bank for blood cells, storing the lab samples from a breast cancer vaccine trial that Dr. Will Gwynn calls promising.
I would say the vast majority have shown positive benefit from this.
For someone like me who's been through cancer treatment and is, knock on wood, doing well, a cancer vaccine would mean that I don't have to worry as much about recurrence.
Former NBC Nightly News correspondent Kristen Dahlgren launched the Cancer Vaccine Coalition.
These vaccines are igniting our immune systems. They're training them, giving them the blueprint to look for any cancer should it pop up and to eliminate it.
Her national nonprofit and the V Foundation are providing a $500,000 grant that will expand UW Medicine's clinical trial.
The right candidate for this trial are individuals who've been recently diagnosed with stage 1 to 3 HER2 positive breast cancer.
The grant will allow the trial, which currently treats 16 patients, to add 9 more.
What we're doing in this project is actually integrating our vaccine within standard chemotherapy and HER2-directed therapy to really kind of boost a very strong cancer-killing immune response that hopefully will go throughout the body and not just attack the cancer now, but prevent it from coming back in the future.
We could wait decades for the approval process to happen, for all of these trials to be completed, or we could fund them and we can do something to move these treatments faster to the patients that need them.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Timbers 360 is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great weekend. I'll see you right back here tomorrow, on Monday rather, at 6:30.